let's move on to Maha news. I don't know why we still call it Maha. They're not really functional, but every once in a while we get a little curveball. We get a little mini celebration. But for now, we do have some bad news here to report here, Jay. We told you guys earlier in the show this there certainly was this breach of trust from Pfizer. We know that there's a trial going on right now. There's a lawsuit right now going on as we speak. Dr. Mary Talley Bowen is covering that trial. She's talked with the lawyer of the one of the vaccine injured people that are taking on Pfizer who got injured during the trials. So these trials were completely skewed from the beginning. We now have reports that, and this is coming from the Children's Health Defense. They're telling us, and this is ironically, it's always ironic when Children's Health Defense gives us something that RFK is not talking about, even though RFK set up the Children's Health Defense. So it's always irony when they're the ones telling us stuff like this. We found out that let me grab this. Okay, here we go. The COVID shots is from Valerie Ann Smith from Children's Health Defense. She posted on behalf of them. The children's COVID shots contain 2 times more of the cancer promoter. It's called SV40. You guys know we talked about that a lot on the show. The cancer promoter SV40 than the adult ones. So for whatever reason, and we're saying we don't know if it's coincidence or intentional, but we do know that the spike in childhood cancers have happened. Now there's one more we need to add to the list. One more piece of bad news, and that comes like this. This is bad. This is a breaking study that Pfizer, again, it's always with Pfizer, man. They found that over 88% of the placentas, the sperm, and the blood, and in 50% of unvaccinated pregnant women, this is the let me grab. Okay, the human biodistribution study. It shows that Pfizer mRNA penetrates fetal reproductive tissues, persists long term, and presents clear evidence of shedding. Oh wow.
And just to be clear, we don't have the whole history of what happened with those unvaccinated women in the study, but when you actually go to the study itself and look at the data, there was only 4 unvaccinated women in the study. The total study contained, I want to say 33, 34 people, and 4 of them were unvaccinated. One of them did not have, any mRNA at all. The other one of them had mRNA in both parts. I think they were looking at the placenta and then the mother's blood or something like that. And then one of them had it in both parts. One of them had it in one part. And then there was 4 people total. One had nothing. One had both. And then the other 2, it was like split evenly. So, I'm one on each side. So, what we need to ask now is, okay, was the father in these pregnant women fully vaccinated? Because that would be the most obvious way that something like this could happen, through blood transfusion, because there is bodily fluid exchange during intercourse, obviously. So if it takes intercourse for this to happen, yes, it's bad, but what if, hypothetically speaking, the father was unvaccinated and the woman did not have sexual intercourse with any vaccinated people that she knew of? How did she get these not spike proteins, these mRNA particles inside of her? So we don't have enough information, and we don't have enough data on both vaccinated and unvaccinated people to make a call there. But one positive thing, that we should take from the study is that, number one, it wasn't 100% of the vaccinated people who still had the mRNA floating around. It was a high percentage, but it wasn't 100%. So that's one positive thing. But what we need to ask essentially is, what is the history of all these people in the study? And we need to figure out how exactly, this is happening. And we also need to remember that they're finding the 5 strands of the Pfizer mRNA it's not technically the complete strand of the mRNA. And there's no evidence that the people who have these strands, the unvaccinated people, are producing the spike protein, which is actually what causes the autoimmune, reactions and the really bad impacts that we're seeing from the vaccine. Like the vaccine is dangerous for some people because the mRNA is causing spike protein to be made all across the body. So even though some Pfizer mRNA may be detectable, we don't have evidence that the spike protein is being created in all of these people. So there's more questions that need to be answered. But what it does bring up is the fact that, number one, we were lied to from the beginning. Because, Matt, I will never forget this. They told us that the mRNA would not leave the injection site. The same site where it went, they said it would be there for about 48 hours, and then it would dissolve. It wouldn't show up anywhere else in the body of vaccinated people. It gets distributed all over the body. Yeah. All over the body, guys. So, and now we know it may be being passed on. So we need to figure out, how is it being passed on? How much of it is being passed on? And are the people it's being passed on to creating spike proteins indefinitely, or are they creating spike proteins at all? So this isn't necessarily all terrible, like apocalyptic news, but it does raise a lot of questions, and it does prove that vaccine shedding, which is something we got labeled conspiracy theorists for talking about, is possible. It is possible. At least fragments of the mRNA strand are being distributed in other people. So this raises a lot more questions that need answers.
Yeah, we're all affected by this. Nobody gets a free pass. And we always talk about this a lot on the show, Jay, about how everybody lost. Like when you have somebody like Scott Adams, the Dilbert dude, going online last year and saying very cynically, I'm not sarcastically, but cynically, very much like, hey guys, all you anti-vaxxers, you were right. You win. He was serious. He's like, you win. I lost. I did something I regret. Now I have, and right after he did that, a few months later, he gets cancer. And so he's dying. He's saying, I'm in the final stage. The same guy who said you win. But I want people to understand about, it's nobody won. He's wrong. He might feel like he got duped. He might feel regret and remorse for how he behaved. But you're not doing anyone any favors if you turn around and say, we lost, you won, F you, F me. That the point is, the reason nobody won is not just specifically looking at shedding. We're talking about, what did we all had a decision to make when this came down. When it came down to it, you either took the thing, or you faked taking the thing, which is another type of compromise. Now you're compromising. You have to sneak around and do stuff under the radar, or you said no and lost everything. So there's not really anybody that didn't fit at least into one of those three categories. And now we're talking about shedding. So nobody won anything.
Yeah, I turned down a very high-paying job opportunity because they told me that if I didn't take the shot, that I would need to agree to have a test shoved up my nose like every single week, not even every month, every single week indefinitely. They couldn't even put a time limit on it. They couldn't say for the next 6 months or the next year. If I took the job, I had to agree to get that shoved up my nose indefinitely. And then we find out that the test that they were giving people actually had extremely dangerous bacteria on it, and it was harming people's respiratory system. And helping them to get sick. And I would have had to agree to that to take this high-paying job. So, and this isn't even about me. Like, we should all care if our fellow Americans are being lied to and are being manipulated into doing something that's bad for them. Because guess what? If healthcare costs go up, that impacts everybody. Like, that impacts everyone. Autoimmune disease going up and causing more people to get healthcare is a transfer of wealth from us tax-paying citizens to medical companies and insurers. That's what's going on over here, guys. This is drawing wealth from us and transferring it up. And Trump was the one who is mostly responsible for it, for the CARES Act and for creating the shot. Because let's not forget, traditionally, Democrats are the party of overregulation. They don't usually cut regulations like that. If it was a Democrat in power, it would have been a lot more difficult for them to justify cutting all the regulations to get the shot out there. Operation Warp Speed meant that a lot of regulations had to be cut. Trump was the perfect guy to have in power to make that happen. So I encourage all Trump supporters out there to stop saying he's being manipulated, to stop saying they're playing him. He's always been guilty. He just knows how to play both sides. He understands what people want. And, like, he'll do his best to manufacture consent by making you think he's on your side.
So there's more to this than just the COVID vaccine. So we're talking about mRNA. We're talking about gene therapy. That this technology. We're talking about Larry Ellison. We're talking about Oracle.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Really quick. Let me just say one thing. The story you led with about the flu shot causing more death in the trial and it getting buried, that was the exact same thing that happened. We're getting back
to the flu part. So it's not. So we're saying that this is. You're right. The technique is the same on each thing, and once we understand that pattern, we should be able to detect it in advance and see the red flag right away. And so the narrative is crumbling for some of us. Not everybody's seeing it yet. And of course, you're saying there's still people holding on to the idea, this crazy idea that Trump is playing this 10D chess with them. But make no mistake, yes, they are playing this out in real time here. But pharma, so we know about this. So this pipe dream of getting big pharma, the mRNA pipe dream is collapsing as Pfizer, Moderna, their trials are suffering massive failures. And this is, like you were saying, we're talking about the flu jab. So these trials in the flu jab have been rejected by the FDA commissioner, Dr. Marty McCrary. Now, look, you might say, well, good thing Dr. Marty McCrary is in the position that he came into because RFK put him there. And that would be great. It says he paused the trial after 1 in 8 children nearly died from overwhelming RSV infection. And so that's good, right? So he paused it. But I'm very concerned about what's happening next. So let's play. This is Marty McCrary telling us about the problem with this flu jab. But I'm a little concerned about what we're going to do next. But here we go.
Gold standard science. Recent mRNA flu shot, that is an mRNA-based flu shot, failed in seniors. The trial showed 0 benefit. Well, we're not just going to rubber stamp new products that don't work, that fail in a clinical trial. It makes a mockery of science if we're just going to rubber stamp things with no data. And that was the MO in the Biden administration with the eternal COVID booster approvals for young, healthy kids.
So he's saying it's been rejected. And he's saying very specifically, he says it's showing 0 benefit for seniors. And so the FDA will not approve it. I don't think he's going far enough here, Jay. And I think that's by design. I think that by saying it's not showing benefit, so we're pausing it, he's not coming out and saying this thing is lethal and it needs.
He's not talking about the harms.
Yes, that's the effing problem. And I know, I get it. I know that there's Maha out there right now going, "Yay, he just called out pharma." Well, not really. He said there's no benefits. And if you guys listen to RFK's verbiage change over this last year, he also doesn't say we need to have punishment for the harm. He says we have to study it more. We have to pause it. We aren't seeing You're seeing that a lot now. You're seeing RFK talk about we don't see the good results. That's not. We're not talking about not seeing results. We're talking about hurting and killing people. That's so. When is that conversation going to start at the administrative level? It won't. Sorry, guys. Spoiler alert. It won't.
And you know why they're not having that conversation, Matt? Because when you talk about the harms, you have to talk about the mechanism behind the harms. And if you talk about the mechanism behind the harms, then you have to get into the mRNA technology itself. then we'll realize, oh, wow. So before, vaccines worked by injecting a little bit of dead virus that actually did pass out your system a lot of the time. Now, there were other ingredients in there that may have some bad effects, but the virus itself, it does get passed out of your system. mRNA, though, is different because it's putting instructions essentially into your body that never leave. In a lot of people, not all people, but in a lot of people, it doesn't leave, and it causes your body to continually create this dangerous virus. The spike protein is what made COVID-19 dangerous, and we're injecting a script into people's body that is telling people's body to continue to create this. So even if you take the COVID-19 part out of it, if viruses are bad and we continue giving these instructions to our bodies to tell our bodies to create this toxic stuff, then it's going to be bad no matter like, which virus it is you're trying to attack. So, I forgot who it is. I think it was Dr. Jay Bhattacharya saying that we're at least 2 or 3 Nobel Prizes away from mRNA technology being safe. That truly is like where we're at. It's not safe. And the fact that people are still taking it, not just for COVID, but for like now thankfully the new ones did get paused, but we'll see. They're clearly not done with it because they're not talking about the potential dangers in the technology. So that's a really good point, Matt, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Cool. Well, look, this isn't an official, we know what it's not segment. So I didn't want to overload you guys with a bunch of unrelated incidences, but one came up, and I'm just going to tag this on. It has nothing to do with what we've been talking about. I just want to be absolutely clear. This one has nothing to do with the conversation we just had. I just thought if you guys were basketball fans, you happen to be like me in Southern California, happen to be a Laker fan, this one just kind of hit pretty hard, actually. Former LA Laker NBA champion Eldon Campbell, dead at 57.
Wow.
A longtime LA Laker big man and key figure on the team during the 90s has died at 57. TMZ can confirm this. Family sources tell TMZ he died suddenly Monday, but they declined to reveal his cause of death. We were told he was not sick.
Yeah.
Man, 15, just real quick, just for this, just because this part's kind of for basketball fans. 15 years in the NBA, half of that was wearing the purple and gold Lakers outfit. He was in the first round in the 90s, and he shared the floor with Shaq and Kobe when they came in 96. And unfortunately, he got traded right before Phil Jackson came in and won them the triple, the back-to-back-to-back. But he did play with Shaq and Kobe. And then he randomly ended up, there was a part where he randomly ended up on the Detroit Pistons in 2004 and defeated the Lakers in the NBA Finals. And that's his claim to fame there. But his, that's his legacy. And I don't know, man. I'm saying this is not related, but these type of things are happening. And I just want to be clear on the age. So we're not, obviously he's not a kid. He's not a young athlete. He's well past retirement. But 57, I just want to be very clear. 57 is the new age where a healthy retired athlete who is not sick dies suddenly, unexpectedly. Wow. That's where we're living right now.
Yeah, and athletes are some of the healthiest people, you're going to find, because they've literally been working out, their entire lives. A lot of times they have to have, somewhat healthy diets. So the fact that all these athletes are dying early, it truly is, scary. And, one of the ways this is happening, this isn't the only way, but one of the ways this is happening suddenly in people is because of blood clots. And I just like to, highlight that there are people out there, working on how to reduce the potential negative impacts of what we've seen. Dr. Peter McCullough in particular, and he's not actually promoting like some fancy formula that he developed himself. what Peter McCullough is doing research on drugs and supplements that already exist to see if there are ways we can use these to, help, remedy the impacts. And one of the drugs that he's brought to the forefront happens to be something called nattokinase. So nattokinase, that's Nattokinase. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but long story short, it's like a fermented soy product or something like that, that essentially helps dissolve blood clots. Like in people's blood. It was used before COVID, and his trials and his studies have shown in vitro that it's one of the things that seem to be helping destroy these clots that are being created by these shots. So this is not medical advice. I'm not telling anyone out there to do anything, and don't start taking anything without consulting your doctor first, and researching it yourself. However, don't be overly negative by these segments. Do some research on potential solutions that are out there, and look at ways you can protect yourself. And just realize anyone who caught COVID could be affected in some way or another, whether or not you took the shot. Now the truth is, we're seeing a lot more impacts from people who took the shot, but these are all solutions and supplements that we should be aware about and talking about as time goes on.
Yeah, and there is hope legally too, because we are, as I said earlier, and just to be clear on this, that Pfizer is being sued right now. They're in litigation right now with the from the original tests, the volunteers of the COVID jab. This is the part I just wanted to remind people, because we covered this earlier in the show, Jay, but if you're watching now, Brooke Jackson, who's one of the survivors of the initial testing, who is featured in Mickey Willis's film, Trust the Silence, or I'm sorry, Follow the Silenced, which premiered here in LA and at the DGA. We were able to meet Brooke when we went to see the film. She's been actively going after Pfizer, and she's in litigation right now. As you can see here, she's taking it up because of she was part of the clinical trials in September of 2020. And she's got her day in court, and it's happening right now. So she's got the support of Dr. Mary Talley Bowden and a friend of the show and others supporting her right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. But there is good news. We can see justice starting to be done, and it's the people that are making this happen. I wouldn't say so much the people in power, but the people have to create their own justice, it seems sometimes, as we are seeing in this case. So,
and one positive note again I wanted to end with is, with the COVID shot, what they did was essentially hide all the deaths that happened in the trial, and tried to pretend that the deaths that happened were unrelated. And they tried the exact same thing with this flu shot, and this time they were caught red-handed, trying to eliminate the deaths out of the trial and not count them. So on the slightly positive side, that does show that we're catching on to some of the games. A lot of that is probably due to the public pressure, but one thing we cannot do is take our foot off the gas. And to be honest with you, I think we still need to try to figure out how we can get justice, because as long as there's people like Bill Gates on the loose out there, funding this gain of function research and creating problems that he magically has a solution for, as long as these people are free, we're going to keep having these issues, pop up from time to time. So we do need justice to prevent it from happening again, because the same people are still up to the same tricks.